My name is Scarlett, and at the beginning of last year, I enjoyed gourmet meals a bit too much, resulting in a weight gain of 5 kilograms. Now, at 43, I'm on a diet in preparation for the upcoming holiday season. My plan is simple: lose the weight now so that indulging over the holidays won't set me back. It seems like a perfect strategy, doesn't it? With the tempting treats from Christmas to New Year's, it's a delightful dilemma to face. I might even treat myself to some Valentine's chocolates. Yes, I'm already salivating at the thought. It looks like this year, like every other, might end with a few extra pounds. Today, I want to share a winter tale with you, one from when I was 23. After dating for several years, my engagement to my boyfriend David was on the horizon. The time had come for him to meet my parents, a formal introduction that hinted at upcoming nuptials. My parents were fond of David, paving the way for smooth discussions about our future. However, an unexpected twist occurred when my older sister Amara, who is 3 years my senior, returned from work. It was clear from the onset that she was inexplicably drawn to David. Sisters have a way of reading each other, and it didn't take long for me to realize that Amara had fallen for David at first sight. I hoped it was a fleeting crush, but during their introduction, she blushed deeply and clung to his hand. Her dreamy expressions didn't escape me. As inappropriate as it seemed for her to act this way towards my fiancé, I chalked it up to an uncontrollable crush and chose to overlook it, believing Amara wouldn't act on her feelings. But things escalated after David left. Fresh out of the shower and wrapped only in a towel, Amara confronted me, demanding I break off the engagement. She accused David of being a philanderer and insisted I could find someone better. Despite her claims, she had no evidence to back them up, relying solely on a woman's intuition. Considering Amara had never been in a relationship, I found it hard to take her intuition seriously. After years of knowing David, I trusted him and his integrity, choosing to focus on our relationship rather than the drama unfolding with my sister. Of course, I didn't take my sister's warnings too seriously and just brushed them off with a nonchalant, "Yeah, I'll be careful." Since that conversation, David began visiting our house more often. He expressed a genuine desire to foster a strong bond with my family, which I found endearing. I was hopeful that this would help him build a positive relationship with my parents, as they were quite pleased with him, and I envisioned a harmonious future together. However, things took a rather awkward turn due to my sister's actions. According to David, whenever I was not around, she would behave overly familiarly with him, grabbing his arm, pressing close, and even questioning my maturity to him, asking, "Don't you think Scarlett is a bit immature?" She went as far as to ask for his contact details and once accidentally fell in a way that exposed her underwear. David found these antics more comical than alluring, which was a relief, because it could have been concerning if he were the type of man to respond to such advances. Despite her forwardness, my sister perhaps believed she had a chance with David because he couldn't outright reject her without causing a family issue, considering she was my sister. Each time they met, she would sweetly call out, "Hey," trying to win him over not just because it was love at first sight for her, but also because David worked at a reputable large company. She seemed to think he was the perfect catch who could provide a secure future. "He's dependable, has the kind of face I adore, and is a good man," she would say, clearly smitten by him. Amidst all this, my parents didn't say a word about her inappropriate behavior. This silence wasn't new. They have always been somewhat passive when it came to addressing my sister's antics. Historically, she has been the sibling who never quite got things right. For example, when asked to heat side dishes, she'd mistakenly use a plastic dish that wasn't heat-resistant and end up melting it. Academically and athletically, she also fell short, often skipping swimming classes with a variety of excuses, whether it was a hurt foot, feeling unwell, or skin issues. And household chores were no different. She never had a knack for those either. In truth, her looks were nothing extraordinary either, but despite all these shortcomings, my sister had always managed to be the center of some kind of drama, just like now with David. As the eldest daughter, my sister has always received special treatment from our parents. They seem to have subtly assigned me the role of supporting her behind the scenes. I've often been encouraged to let her shine while I remain in the background, a directive I find quite unfair. It appears that my parents might view her as somewhat incapable and perhaps pity her more because of this, which only drives their indulgence. I, on the other hand, have always been efficient and capable of handling tasks swiftly. Perhaps for the adults, there's no allure in mentoring someone who already excels independently. Thus, making my sister's needs a priority and occasionally downplaying my abilities in public became second nature to me. However, as I matured and realized the importance of my achievements, especially when it came to academics, I began to resist this family dynamic. If I had continued to conform to their expectations, I might have ended up undermining my capabilities. My slight rebellion seemed to cause a rift with my sister as she felt a loss of support. Yet, our relationship wasn't deeply strained. We could still converse normally, and I often offered her advice on various matters. Our family dynamic had its quirks, with overprotectiveness toward my sister and some resentment brewing from her end, but I still considered us a perfectly normal family. However, the equilibrium was disturbed when David, my fiancé, did not return my sister's affection. Her frustration peaked on the eve of our wedding when she expressed a common sentiment about sibling marriage order to our parents, lamenting, "I can't accept that my younger sister is getting married before me." My parents tried to soothe her, assuring, "Don't worry, you'll find a good partner soon too, Amara." Despite their reassurances, the idea that the elder sister should marry first and that it was too soon for me to do so was a point of contention that lingered in the air. "But the wedding is tomorrow, isn't it? What are you saying, Mom? Don't you care about me? I'm going to be the pitiful older sister who gets surpassed by her younger sister," my sister lamented. That night, I overheard the heated discussion between her and our parents from the hallway. Was it really necessary for her to marry before me? If I had waited for her, I would have lost precious years. Her outburst seemed a bit extreme to me. After voicing her concerns, I thought she would calm down, but instead, she made a startling demand. "Mom and Dad will not attend the wedding tomorrow. So please be satisfied with that, Amara." I was shocked. Both my parents had agreed not to come to my wedding to appease my sister. It felt like they were adherents of a cult where my sister wielded undue influence. This was beyond simple indulgence. "Fine, I'll compromise. Let her have a wedding that nobody acknowledges," my sister grudgingly conceded. It was clear she didn't want me to marry David, likely because she harbored feelings for him herself. The reality set in, a wedding without my parents present, all due to my sister's unrequited affection. The wedding day was anything but joyful for me. Anxiety kept me awake the night before, not anticipation, but dread from recalling the distressing conversation between my sister and my parents. I couldn't erase the image of my sister's smug smile when she heard our parents wouldn't attend. At the venue, I had the painful task of explaining to David and his parents why mine wouldn't be there. "I apologize, but my sister opposes this marriage, so my family will not be attending," I told them. It was a heart-wrenching announcement to make. My in-laws were stunned, hardly believing that there were parents who would choose not to attend their daughter's wedding. They were silent, absorbing the weight of the situation. Feeling the heavy atmosphere, my mother-in-law took my hand, and my father-in-law placed his hand on top of ours. "Remember that your family is here. Don't make this day a sad one. Come on, why don't you smile?" my mother-in-law said warmly, offering the support and love that was missing from my own family at that moment. As I stood there on my wedding day, tears began to well up in my eyes, but David came to my side, gently stroking my head, and reassured me. "Marianne, I'm here as your husband, so please don't worry about who isn't here." Seeing me start to cry, my in-laws and David quickly tried to lift my spirits. "Don't cry, you're the bride and your makeup will run," they said, half joking to lighten the mood. Then my mother-in-law looked at me earnestly and advised, "Marianne, it might be tough with your family situation, but you're starting a new life today, a wonderful beginning. Let's focus on building your own family." Despite feeling abandoned, I felt a firm embrace from my mother-in-law, followed by David and my father-in-law joining in. I reassured myself, just as my mother-in-law had said, this was a new beginning. I resolved to build my own happy family. That day, David and I got married, marking the start of our life together. 13 years have passed since then. David and I have been blessed with 3 children, a capable daughter who seems to handle anything that comes her way, and 2 mischievous sons who love to stir up a bit of chaos around the house. Sometimes I catch myself shouting, "Stop it now," and it surprises even me how much I sound like a mom in command. David's career has flourished, we've bought a house, and we've been living a stable, contented life. Then, one day, unexpected figures appeared on our doorstep: my father, mother, and sister. After the wedding, I kept my distance from my family and didn't share my new address with them. But somehow, they found us and showed up unannounced. Of course, the words that greeted them weren't warm, like "long time no see," but rather, "What do you want?" To which my sister replied, "I have a favor to ask of you." My parents chimed in, "It's something only you can do for us," looking at me earnestly. I was bewildered, wondering what they could possibly need from me after 13 years of estrangement. I remained silent, half curious and half fearful, as my mother spoke up. "We want you to give David to your sister." Both David and I were shocked by her words. "Wait a minute, what do you mean I need to give David away?" I asked, utterly confused and alarmed by the bizarre request. When I sharply questioned them, my parents looked away guiltily, while my sister stood there smug and proud. Despite being 40 and still single, she seemed unfazed by her circumstances, which now included unemployment since her company had recently folded. "It's tough," my father explained. "We're worried about your sister's future, being single and jobless. We hope you understand. As sisters, you should feel the same." Internally, I rebuffed their reasoning with a firm "No, I don't think so," but remained outwardly silent, curious to see what they would say next. My frustration grew as my father spoke slowly, each word more absurd than the last. "She's always liked David, and she's still alone because of that. You've had your time with David, haven't you? Could you please let your sister have him for the rest of her life?" "What do you mean?" I asked, incredulous. David was equally shocked, struggling for words. Meanwhile, my parents continued to plead, and my sister maintained her haughty demeanor, convinced she would get what she wanted. Given my parents' history of indulging her, it wasn't surprising she believed this ludicrous request would be fulfilled. As I stood there, dumbfounded, David pulled me aside and whispered, "This might actually be a chance to put an end to all this. Remember that joke you made when you were drunk? It's like it's coming to life." Emboldened, we faced my family again. "Do you really love David that much?" I asked her. Taken aback by my direct question, my sister stammered, visibly shocked. "Yes, I really have loved him all this time." "That's quite a long time to continue loving someone who's married to another," I noted. Her response was filled with conviction. "It's been very painful watching you two together. It should have been me." Stunned by her intense words, David and I struggled to maintain our composure. I decided to play along with the charade a bit longer. "If you love him that much, I'll step aside," I declared, shocking everyone, especially our parents. "Really? Don't you love David too?" My mother quickly interjected. "No." "Actually," David chimed in, playing his part, "to tell you the truth, I've always had feelings for Amara." My sister's face lit up with delight. "Really?" I knew it. This surreal exchange left everyone reeling as David and I watched their reactions, barely keeping ourselves from laughing at the absurdity of the situation we had orchestrated. The reality was, of course, that David and I were securely united, but sometimes going along with a ludicrous scenario was the only way to highlight its ridiculousness. As I hugged David, I noticed his eyes shimmering with a playful love. "I've been waiting for this moment," he said, his voice quivering with suppressed laughter. Beside me, David feigned crying, but his shaking shoulders gave him away. "We just have to get through this little performance," I whispered. "We'll always be together from now on." Suddenly, my sister began to speak to David as if they had been intimate for years. It sounded so natural, as if, in her mind, she had been living a romantic saga with David for the past 13 years. "Amara, I'm happy. Please be my support from now on," David said with a grin. "Yes, absolutely," she replied eagerly. "So, I'm going to quit my job." Really? David's announcement wiped the blush from my sister's face, replacing it with shock. I want to be with you, Amara. All the time. So, I'm quitting my job to always be by your side. I won't even go outside anymore. I'll follow you to the bathroom and watch you do housework. David's cheerful tone left my sister flustered and panicking. Our parents, too, couldn't hide their disturbance. But I'm not working either, and this is troubling, she stammered. What's troubling? If we're together, we have nothing to fear. We don't need money to be happy, David continued, pushing the absurdity further. But nowadays we need to pay for insurance, right? It's not like the old times. We can't love each other if there's no money. Seizing the moment, I chimed in. David, if we do end up divorcing, I'll be taking a generous share of the assets, so you better pay up. Don't worry, your sister and parents will take care of the payments, David replied with a laugh. Hearing this, our parents went pale and looked at each other in disbelief. Amara, this is hard to say, but this isn't right. Stealing a husband from your sister. Exactly, Amara. That is indeed the case. But where had all the previous passion gone? It was as if our parents had suddenly come to their senses. What are you talking about? You promised to give David to me. Amara protested. But Amara, that was before. I don't want to hear it, our mother interjected. Doesn't anyone support me? As my sister ranted, she grabbed our mother's hair, and my father struggled to mediate the chaos. In the commotion, David calmly captured everyone's attention. Honestly, you're not my type. I respect you as Marianne's sister, but apart from that, I don't want to interact much with you. Especially that upward gaze you give, it actually turns me off. The thought that someone harbors unrequited feelings for me is quite difficult. David's candid remarks left both my sister and our parents speechless. But David, what was all that earlier? Amara demanded. Please stop being so casual with someone else's husband. There's no way he could fall for you. I concluded firmly, putting an end to the absurdity that had spiraled far beyond a mere family dispute. As I watched my sister walk towards David with a pale face, I intervened. We have a family, and we are living happily. Her steps halted as she turned to face me. What? You tricked me, she exclaimed. How can you think someone who hasn't contacted you for 13 years loves you? Isn't that unrealistic? I challenged her, hoping to inject some sense into the situation. Her face flushed red, and tears of frustration welled in her eyes. If you were truly an attractive prospect, maybe. But no one finds charm in someone unemployed, dependent on their parents, and lacks any self-sufficiency because her mother has always done everything for her. I continued, my words sharp and unyielding. David snickered quietly behind me, understanding the reality of the words. Struck by the truth, my sister's frustration turned to loud crying, her tears unstoppable. Our parents, attempting to console her, looked on with expressions of dawning realization and confusion, as if finally acknowledging the harsh truth of the situation. Therefore, I'm not handing over David. Please give up, Amara, I stated firmly. At this, my sister's crying intensified, her sobs childlike and unseemly for an adult. Take this experience as a lesson and please don't involve yourself with us again. No matter how much trouble you find yourself in the future, don't expect any help from us, I declared, feeling the finality of my words as I slowly closed the front door. When my children asked what had happened, I responded lightly, it's Halloween season, so it seems a ghost came early. My eldest child suggested, let's exorcise the spirit. Although I dismissed the idea, it almost felt real, with the echoes of my sister's wails sounding like a tormented ghost outside. Another 4 years passed, and my sister remained single. She managed to find a job, but her inappropriate behavior eventually led to her dismissal. Her rush into marriage and the resultant troubles got her banned from matchmaking events. It seems likely she might stay single for life. My parents are still working part-time, tirelessly saving money for her sake. They probably realize now that they can't rely on her for their future care. I hope they understand the consequences of their indulgence after all their hard work. As a homemaker, I've been fortunate not to worry about my children's school fees. thanks to their brilliance and my husband's stable job. Sometimes I do wonder if having a job outside the home would help me shed the extra calories I tend to gain during the festive season. My daughter, who is naturally slim and now hitting her growth spurt, has started talking about dieting, but I encourage her to hold off. Think about that when you're older, like me, I tell her. My two sons are passionate about dancing and have recently made a splash at a local event, bagging several awards. Brimming with confidence, they dream of one day joining BTS, so I find myself hoping that the band stays together long enough for my boys to have a shot at their dream. We are blessed with regular visits from my in-laws, who are as dear to me as my parents. We relish the delightful meals we share. With spring break on the horizon, we're planning a spa trip, eagerly anticipating some quality family time. Despite the challenges I faced before marriage, my life now is brimming with happiness, strengthening the genuine bonds of family. I cherish the happiness that fills my days and look forward to many more years of health and togetherness, hoping to share countless precious moments with our loved ones.